Welcome. This is a short video on the basics of Google Slides. I'm not actually going to talk about Google Groups in this particular video. So we're talking about Google Slides. To start off with, we are going to create a new slide presentation. Google Slides is like PowerPoint for Google. And the ways you can get there are through your Drive. You can get there by clicking on New, where you see Google Slides with the yellow icon. Or you can also always in the search bar or in the omnibar, type in slides.google.com. This is true for most of the tools in Google. So either way, you come to a place where you can now create a new slideshow. So I clicked on a new slideshow. If I was doing it from the Drive, I would also do it from New, and I would click on Google Slides. So now I have what they call an untitled presentation. You can see I have two up there. I'm going to get rid of one of them. By default, when you open up your Google Slides, you're going to be offered themes down the side, which, just like PowerPoint, creates a design template for your slides. These days, I usually just use a white slide, and then I do some of my own editing to create the slides I want to. For me, it's more important about what I'm putting in and what images I'm putting in. So I would stay away from the presentation mode, these themes that are very presenty. So this is our untitled presentation. To add another slide, so again, the default is always a title slide. To add another slide, we click on the plus sign. So we have our second slide, and again, the default is usually this style where you have a title on the top and a text box underneath that. If I do the downward arrow here, you can see all my different slide types. And this is just, again, default inside slides. So if you're being very pre-thinking and you know you want two columns, you could click on the two-column slide. Whatever slide you create, so this is the one with two columns. If I just click on the plus sign now, I'm going to get another slide that's like this one. So whatever slide you're on, when you click plus, it's going to make a duplicate of that or repeat that style. So here I have the title and one text box. If I could hit the plus button, I get a second slide that way. If I'm in the one with the two columns and I click the plus sign, I get another one with the two columns. So just know that that's a default in there. If I wanted to, in my second slide, I want to call it banana. And I want to insert an image of a banana. And I'm actually going to click out of themes here. Click that X. I can still get back to theme up here in the ribbon. So most of the things that you can do, you can see in the ribbon or in these different tabs. There's very long drop downs under each of these tabs that are worth exploring. But just know that if you click on something and it goes away, you X out of it here, usually you can find it back here somewhere. And I like to X out of that and keep this all clean so that I can see more of my slide. So I want to insert an image of a slide of a banana. I'm going to go to Insert. Insert is a great tab to get familiar with. You can insert a lot of different kinds of content in here. I'm going to insert an image. You may have had this image on your computer. You could search the web. You can pull it from your Drive, from Google Photos, from a URL, or from a camera, not from another place. So if you have your photos sitting in iPhoto or something else, you won't be able to pull that in. But you could copy that and save it into your computer and then upload it from the computer. I'm going to search from the web. Again, it gives me this, most of the things that additional actions will create this sidebar. In here, I type the word banana and hit enter, and up come a lot of images of bananas. And I'm going to say that I like this image. Once I select one, you see I get that little blue plus sign or a blue check circle with a white check mark in it, and I get this button. So I can click insert, and it's going to slowly do that. Now the banana's in there. Here's something very important. When you want to play around with your graphics, it's very important that you do not drag from the edges. Notice that I get that two-way arrow as I scroll over the little square, the little blue squares on the outer parts of my image. that tells me that I can make this bigger or smaller. When I see the four-way arrow, that tells me that I can move this image. So now I can just move it, right? And this is something that can be very confusing to people when they're first doing it. Right now, nothing is active on my screen. If I click on it again, you see I get that blue outline that tells you that this is the element that you're currently editing. I want to make this element smaller, not just move it. To make it smaller, I could do it from any of these little squares. The downside of that is that I'm going to lose my aspect ratio. So now I get squishy bananas. If I come in on the side, I could make them narrow, right? So we lose the ratio of how that image was originally created. I'm going to do something called Control Z to undo those two edits. And we get back to our original image. In order to maintain aspect ratio, you want to make sure you always pull from a corner. So you're doing a diagonal drawing down to make it smaller. That keeps the ratio aspect, or I can drag up, right? So this is the size of banana I want. I'm going to put it over here. So now I'm moving it. So what will happen as you do slides more and more is you become more facile with the ability to know that you're dragging to move when you get those four pointy arrow icon. And when you scroll over the edges, you're going to get that two-way pointy arrow, and that's how you resize. And that when you're resizing an image, it's incredibly important to do it from the corners. If you're resizing a text box, so now the text box is outlined. I see again that blue line. The text box, it is not important. I can just drag this over, and now my text box is here, and that will mean that all my writing stays in here. It doesn't change the aspect ratio of the writing. So bananas are good for you. Okay, and see if I can get my spelling right. So there we have bananas are good for you. This was the default color settings and font settings for this slide. I would like to change that for everything in my slideshow. If I want to do this for everything in my slideshow, then it's worth going up to View and Master. Now I get to design my master slide, and all my slides will follow this. So the default here in this master slide at the top is this font. I want to change that to Rockwell. And then the first level in here, I'm going to highlight it, and I want to change it to Oswald, and I'm going to make it bigger. I find in most of my slides, I use a 24 size font whenever I can for the main copy. And I don't usually go below, or I don't use more than 3 levels. So I want to try and keep these a little bit bigger than their default. Okay, so I usually do 3 levels of size. One is 24, one is 20, and one is 18. And I want to change these fonts too. And I keep the fonts the same. I don't play around with that too much. You can always go in at any individual time and change the font for that particular slide. This is, again, creating a rule for all the slides. I also don't want these to be gray. I find the gray very depressing. So I'm going to change that all to black. So I do that under this A with a little bar underneath it. That bar indicates what color the writing is now. Okay, I'm going to ignore the rest because I never get into those. So now up at the top, I could rename this. I don't even do that. I just know that it's going to be used by all slides, and it's what I'm going to be using for this slideshow. To get out of master view, I just go back over to that column all the way on the left and click back into my slide. And the font changes have already occurred. So now in every slide, that is automatically set up for me. But what if this slide wants to be special? I could go in right now and change all of this. Maybe I want banana to be bigger writing, and I maybe want it to be a orange color. So I could do that for my individual slides. That's totally fine. Another tip, though, is you could actually use this explore button. You'll notice on a slide that has nothing added to it that explore button is gray. And you can still click on it. It'll give you some layout design ideas. Again, we X out of it by clicking on the X. But if I have added writing and an image, often that slide explore button will turn yellow. And when I click on it, now it's actually going to take my content that I've already added and give me some suggestions for how it could be laid out differently, right? So maybe I like this or this. I only do this for special things. I don't want to do it for every single slide. I find that there's something nice about a relative amount of uniformity, depending on the content that you're sharing. And if you don't like any of these, again, you can just do Control-Z and you'll get back to your original layout. And if you don't want the Explore thing showing anymore, you X out of that. So now we have bananas are good for you. I could make this bigger. Now, what if I wanted the bananas to take up as much space as possible? I really want them to be as big as possible, but I don't want this writing to disappear. Right now, the element that I'm editing is the banana because I have that blue outline there. But if I want this writing to come to the front, I have two options. I can either send the bananas to the back or I can bring the writing to the front. As I'm already here, I'm going to keep on the bananas and I'm going to go up to where it says arrange. And I'm going to order and I'm going to send it to the back. Now, the writing is actually on top of the bananas. The natural order, the default order for how these things are layered is the first element you put on the page is at the bottom. The next element is on top of that. Next element is on top of that. Because when you open up a slide, there's already a text box that's always going to be at the back by default. And anything you add after that is going to be on top of that, and then on top, on top, on top. But the arrange tab allows you to manipulate that to the way you want it to be. So you can make, there are other ways to do it. Copying, cutting and pasting is another way to do that. But the arrange button is there to help you do that. I also want to insert slide numbers. I think slide numbers are often really helpful so people can find their way around. So if I go down, I'm in insert. You heard me say insert slide numbers. So I'm going to go down all the way to the bottom, insert slide numbers. I don't want it on the title slide, so I click that box and then I click apply. And the design is to have that down in the corner. You could change that layout if you wanted to. So this is banana. I'm going to keep it at that. So now I want to present my slides. Let's do one more. We'll do an orange. And we're going to, again, insert image. And I'm going to search the web. Going to X out of banana. Oops, sorry. Always forget that it does that. So when you do image and you do search from the web, and that X actually doesn't X out the words, it X's out the whole box. So you have to just highlight it and then start typing your new word. And say we like this orange, and we insert it. And again, I'm going to make it a little smaller. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, so now I want to present my session. Up at the very top, well, so let's give it a title, fruit. And normally on that home page, I would write fruit, and then maybe your name. So that's slide number 1. And if you wanted to, so notice as I click on different elements in here, I get different things in the ribbon. If I click, you always know that usually the corners are safe. There's nothing in the corners. So if you want to get out of editing any element, just click in a corner, and then usually all the elements will be unselected. When you do that, you get the option of background. So I could actually change the color of the background. Let's make it green. And then maybe I want to change the writing to white. And this one could be red. Right, this will look crazy, but we'll go for it. Okay, so there's a couple of buttons up here on the upper right. And they are, first of all, we have a speech thing here, which is if you wanted to give people comment access, they could write comments. You can present from here and you can share from here. So share is how you would share it with other people. Present is how we go into presentation mode. So notice when I click present, there's a downward facing arrow. Presenter view allows you to see some other elements here, which I never use. You do have notes down here, and this would let you see your notes while you're presenting. It's a different view than what goes out on a projector. In Slide, when we're doing this on Zoom, I don't think that's so helpful. If you're using it with a projector, it would be fine. So just by clicking present, now my whole screen is taken up by the slide. At the bottom, I have a little gray toolbar that lets me move through my slides. I can also use my arrows on my keyboard or even my mouse. And you can see down there, there are a couple of different tools that show up, which I've never used. You're welcome to play around with them. You see exit is here as a possibility, or you can make the screen so it's not taking up your whole screen. It will still be in present mode. Or you can hit exit, or you can hit escape on your keyboard, and either way you'll come back out to this. Notice that here I see the text box, but when I'm in present mode, I only see the fruit. So you will not see text boxes unless there's text in them. But I do like to clean up, and if I click on that so it's highlighted and I just do a backspace, it goes away. You can always insert text boxes up here. So say I decided suddenly I needed a new text box, I could come here and put one in. Oranges have lots of vitamin C. And let's make that into contain. Okay, so again, I could change the size of that writing. And I could change the size of this box. So there's a little bit more space, right? But you can do all that to make it beautiful. Notice that as I move this around, I get those red lines. That's helping me know where I'm laying it out. That's in the middle of the slide, centered on the slide. This is the bottom of the text box is at the same place as the picture now. So you can make some decisions, but a lot of that you can do just visually as well. If you wanted to share this presentation with someone, you would go to share. And now you have two options. One is to type in someone's Gmail account or however you want to share it with them. And the other one is to get a link. And that's the one I usually do. So I'm going to click on get link. It says restricted, only people added can open the link. I'm going to change that to anyone with a link. I see that they have view only access. They have viewer, commenter, editor. Viewer is what I want. I'm going to say copy that link. I see the link copied, and I'm going to click done. And now if I wanted to, on this slide, I could get rid of one of these text boxes. I could make this one bigger. In here, Control View is the link to these slides. I could send that to you as an email. I could show it to you here. It's a live link. So when it's in present mode, this will be a link live out to this slideshow. As you make changes to the slideshow, the link stays the same. So if you share the link today and you make a change tomorrow, when they open it up again, they're going to see those changes already in there. All right, we're going to say that that is it for this quick overview of how to play with slides.